Welcome, everybody. It's 1 o'clock, so that must mean it is time for Sickish Live. I am Ryan Olson. I'll be your host today, filling in for Michael DeGeeter. Today, we are going to be talking about Salesforce and the CPQ tool. And to do that, we are going to bring on our guest, Miles Sims, who's one of our directors specializing with the Salesforce. And he's going to walk us through all there is to know about CPQ and how not to mess it up. Miles, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with kind of the whole Salesforce.
Yeah, I've been in Salesforce for over 10 years. I started out like a lot of Salesforce users as an admin for my company. We implemented Salesforce for the sales team, and then worked alongside Salesforce as a partner. Did a lot of integration work, and have just kind of been in consulting the last 5 or 6 years and really enjoying it, and all there is to be a part of the Salesforce ecosystem. So, part of the practice here at Sickish now, and we're a young practice overall for Sickish, but growing and excited about the business that we're, and the customers and the projects that we're working on.
Fantastic. I think we should jump right into it here.
Yeah.
So when discussing CPQ, how should clients approach it if this is their first time moving to this platform?
Yeah, so I think probably some of the biggest things, and I'll jump right to it before anyone falls asleep, right? Is when you're looking at CPQ and you're really getting into the complexity around quoting and pricing, is really thinking, and this sounds cliche, but it's true, is thinking about transformation first before customization. So and Salesforce preaches this as well, but one of the number one things you don't want to do with CPQ is lift and shift. So you really want to dig into those existing business processes. Think about how the CPQ tool can be used, what changes you can make to your existing process to really map the strengths of the tool. There will be times where customizations are needed, but I think it's really important just to understand if you are going to take that technical debt on, that you're comfortable with why you're doing it, and it really matches well to the business processes, and it's important. So that is, if there's one takeaway from today, I think that's it. Is don't lift and shift. Really, dig deep and get into those business processes and make sure that you're leveraging the benefits of the tool, not just moving your existing processes over and then struggling to find that alignment. That's again, hopefully no one's asleep yet, but that's the number one thing to take away from today.
I mean, definitely important. You need to be able to kind of have those reasons and do that. There's a reason why it's a cliche, because it works so well.
Yeah, it's so easy to just kind of fall back into what we know versus like really pushing the envelope, having some of those tough conversations and changing the process and improving it, for the better.
Okay, so once the approach has been defined, what should you focus on first to build out your CPQ implementation?
So yeah, first and foremost is going to be your product catalog. So that is going to be the foundation of your CPQ implementation. We're going to layer things on top of that once we have it set, but thinking about how your products are set up, thinking about the SKU structure, starting from the bottom and moving up that SKU ladder. Are there opportunities to maybe we have some conflicting or confusing or even complex product items listed there in our price book or our product catalog that we can turn into price rules or something else, like to kind of remove that clutter. So that's really the first and foremost thing, is spend as much time as possible, get some data extracts, like really dig into what that product catalog looks like, because that is the foundation for everything else we're going to do. And if we have uncertainty there, or there's issues with how that is structured, it's going to cause us headaches as we move forward. So if we can do that, think about multi-currency, think about regional pricing. There's a lot of things that will apply to that product catalog. But if we consider all of those up front, then it's really going to help us out, as we roll into the other features within CPQ.
So as you're mentioning things about the product catalog, what are some like red flags people look for to see that there's like certain complexities with your product catalog before you kind of take a next step?
Yeah, so I think when we get into that, it's looking at, okay, are there a lot of additional bundles and configurations and things that we don't necessarily need, and maybe they're back to that transformation piece. Maybe they're left over from a previous process or previous tool or a workaround, and maybe those are things that we can move off to other areas. So can we reduce our total entries from a product standpoint, and then look at layering on a discount schedule or some additional pricing that's not gonna really clutter that catalog. So a bit of a broken record, but yeah, I mean that's where we want to spend a lot of time up front getting that right.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. So once you have it defined, what happens next? What should you look at next?
Yeah, so moving right from there and is going into those product configuration and those bundles, right? How it's a similar approach. How can we distill those down a little bit? We want to make sure they scale. We want to make sure that we aren't trying to do too much. That they're usable when people come in to use the tool to configure a quote, to build out the attributes. Those make sense. We're mindful of usability, ease of building out the bundles. And then again, if we have some complexity or additional complexity, maybe that's something we can move to the next level, and just make sure when we're doing those configurations, logic and everything behind them, again, just kind of keeps us in that happy place for usability and ease of use.
So in terms of pricing, what should we kind of be thinking about here?
Yeah, so pricing, once we've got the product catalog set up, we know what bundles are going to look like, what the configuration options are. This is where we really want to dig into our pricing approach. We've got go-to-market pricing, we've got list pricing, we have discount schedules, as we mentioned, contracted pricing, and really get a sense of one, what our baseline is going to be, for that go-to-market pricing. So how we're going to set that price or that list price, and a lot of times those are two different things. So understanding what the baseline in the tool or in our configuration is going to be, and then really how we're going to execute those additional price schedules or price discounts. Like, what does that layering look like? There's some really good documentation in the Salesforce help, or in Salesforce support area around what those calculations look like, how those stages are set up. So now I really recommend going and taking a look at those, and just kind of getting your head around, okay, here's how the pricing rules and structures are applied. How does this map to what we want to do?
Now, is this a stage where it's kind of easy to mess up the whole CPQ thing, or you built the foundation, did all this kind of great stuff, but then like you get the pricing wrong? Is that something you need to be aware of?
Yeah, I think this is a great area to do a lot of troubleshooting and additional testing. Make sure that you are using the CPQ tools, and we'll continue that theme here in a minute, and talk about some other areas. But use the tools that are built into CPQ to help manage some of that and mitigate some of that risk. You will end up having to debug some of the quote line rules and making sure all that works correctly, but really digging in, doing a lot of testing on how the price rules are applied to your quotes, making sure that the end result is what you expect it to be, for a specific client, for a specific product, for a specific territory, whatever that looks like. It's kind of really running through that over and over again to make sure you're comfortable with the output. Because at the end of the day, that's going to be one of the most important things that we expect a well-configured CPQ implementation to do, is give us the correct pricing and make it easier, not harder, to get to that price.
Yeah, so many layers, sound like.
Many layers, yes.
Yes. But let's get to those features. You mentioned those. What are some other features that we can kind of get into with CPQ?
Yeah, so CPQ is awesome. There's a couple different price points on the licensing and additional features. So we get into some approvals and advanced approvals within CPQ. So beyond what Salesforce, the regular Salesforce approvals can do, you can really have some parallel tracks on approvals and get into some more advanced logic there. Um, Renewals and amendments to pricing contracts, so that can get again can add some complexity, but also gives you some functionality that really doesn't exist within standard Salesforce. So making sure that we understand how those renewals are forecasted, for example, like that's a key feature, but one we've got to really put our heads around. And then just how we leverage those features. And guided selling too. That's a popular feature where it kind of walks you through step by step how you're setting up your quote or how you're configuring certain products. So there's a lot that can bells and whistles, I guess you would say, but all dependent upon making sure we've got our product catalog set up correctly, our SKUs make sense, and that we're from a usability standpoint, we've got products that are easily configurable.
You mentioned a lot about kind of logic behind the scenes stuff. I'm assuming that kind of guide automation tools. So what should you be using, when you build out those CPQ?
Yeah, so this is a big one, and I think another kind of gotcha is as Salesforce nerds, we all love using process builders and flows and a lot of the automation tools that we're familiar with. However, when you move to CPQ, it has its own suite of tools. And so, they have special fields and field mapping and some things you may not be familiar with. One, I would definitely recommend going in and kind of getting familiar with or working with your consultant with us on making sure we know what those tools can do. But really leveraging those CPQ tools first is going to be important. One of the reasons is it's CPQ is a managed package, so these are going to be native tools built into that managed package. Things like price rules and product rules, summary variables if we get really geeky on some of this stuff. But those tools really are there to help automate the overall CPQ process, but also performance. And I think that's a key thing. Is if we start to try and layer in maybe a process builder, and not to say you can't do that, but we just need to understand that that type, bringing those tools from the outside the managed package could have performance implications. One of the things we'll commonly see is as a customer that says they're when they do the recalculating of the quotes, it's really slow. And so what we often find is we have kind of a mishmash of different automation tools, and maybe we need to go back and recalculate that, look at using those CPQ tools that are included in the managed package first. And then if need be, then we can come back maybe and do a light process builder or something like that. But that's really important. And just using the mapping pricing structure within CPQ first is going to help eliminate a lot of the troubleshooting and a lot of those potential performance issues that we may see as we grow. Especially with big product catalogs, you're going to have complexity. So let's make it as usable as we can.
So can you share like any sort of success stories about people who've gone through this whole process, seen the benefits, kind of what is the outcome?
Yeah, I think the outcome is, one, it's very common to move from an Excel spreadsheet based culture. And I think that happens no matter what we're talking about tool wise, be it CRM, CPQ, but really alignment on products and providing benefit to the customers. Many times these processes, as they're managed in-house, really have a lot of overhead involved. So it takes a lot of time to get to the right price configuration, or you have these heroes within your organizations that are just cranking on those Excel spreadsheets, and they're awesome. But they could be really, instead of spending so much time having to put the quotes together or do configurations, really looking at, from a strategic standpoint, being able to zoom out a little bit and say, okay, now that we've automated some of this, or now that we have a tool where we can run reports and really look at what's happening, we can focus our attention on things that are driving our business, and not just the overhead of trying to get this quote out on Thursday because it's really complex and I haven't heard back from the sales guy and I don't know if my boss approved it, or all those variables where we end up running around a lot. I mean, that's the goal, is to reduce that overhead and allow us to really focus on the business value of what we're trying to sell.
Well, perfect. So I think we're at our end of our time here. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we kind of wrap up our discussion about CPQ?
I think I'll finish where I started, and that is really, focusing on avoiding the lift and shift approach, making sure you're having those hard conversations up front to realign and transform your business processes, and then go from there right into how does this impact our product catalog. I think if you do that, you're going to set yourself up for success. Everything else can be adjusted and layered on, but those are the keys to really running a successful CPQ implementation.
I love it. Bringing back full circle. It's great.
That's right.
Miles, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, anytime.
And for everybody watching, thank you for watching. And we will catch you on the next version of Sickage Live. We have one on Tuesday. We also have one on Thursday. So stay tuned on all the social platforms for that. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow our pages to get those notifications. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. And